Guys, Alex with the Chainsaw Shack here. Today we're going to talk about the outside wood burner. You know, a lot of people are curious about these things. Are they worth the money? They are expensive to buy. So we want to touch a few points here and talk about why I have one versus maybe I should have went with gas. So the first thing here I want to talk about is, has this thing paid for itself? This I bought 2015. It's on its sixth winter. This is sixth winter. Doing the calculations, I'd say it's real close to paying for itself right about now. I did get a good deal on this one. It was right at the transition point where the EPA Phase 2 was coming into play. And they were really trying to unload these things as fast as they could. So this one is grandfathered in. It is not a Phase 2 gasifying stove. But all the EPA tests for this stove puts it about 75% efficiency or less, maybe 65. It does pretty darn good. I am able to get 12 hours with this stove on 6 to 8 pieces of wood. And throughout the entire winter, I burn for 6 months. I can go 10 cords. I heat 3,000 square feet and hot water heater for the whole family. And it's never had an issue keeping the 12-hour burn times, even when it's below zero. You know, obviously we have to fill it up more than that. So, has it paid for itself? Yes. The initial cost on one of these has gone up since steel prices have gone up. I got this one an excellent deal. I paid about $6,000 for this. Now, they're going to be $10, $12, $14,000 for the EPA. So you have to figure that in. Is that going to be worth buying? How long will it take you in place of propane? What are the propane prices going to do? I remember when I bought this, propane was $4 a gallon. I was going to spend $4,000 to fill my tank with propane. And this was a logical choice for me. I have a lot of firewood. I do a small tree business. I have a lot of waste wood. And it's all free heat. So for me, it was a good choice. It was a good choice. I have never paid for wood for this, and I don't think personally this would be a logical choice if somebody's going to buy wood. You know, you're talking, what is wood prices? $300 for a cord around here, $250. That's not worth it. You're going to burn through a cord to 2 cords a month. You're talking way more than what gas would cost, plus your time and energy. For me, it's worth it. Maybe not if you'd have to buy wood. Another great point is we keep the house 72, 73 degrees all the time. And this also allows us to have unlimited hot water. We shut the hot water heater off right away in the winter. It never turns on. Don't have an electric bill for that, which is great having women in the house and laundry, and it's a logical choice that way. So you know, there's different brand names that you can buy. This is middle of the road. This is still a robot welded unit. It's well made, but you know, you have companies like Crown Royal, Heatmaster, Heatwar. They're stainless steel models. They last a little longer. And that might be a more logical choice, but they're also more expensive. This unit has a 20-year warranty. They say you can get 20 years out of it, maybe 15. So depends what you want to spend. This for me was about right, perfect in my price range, efficiency, and everything I needed. So we're going to show you around the stove in a little bit here, and we'll pick it up from there.
3.
Alright guys, here's a big point that we don't see too much on the videos on YouTube, so we want to talk about this. This is a must-have for all stoves. How many people talk about this? This right here is boiler treatment solution. This keeps your stove from getting corroded, from rusting away. If it's stainless, it keeps all the crap off the inside of the stove. So I bought this right in my hometown. Waupun, Wisconsin. This is from woodboilersolutions.com. These guys make this right in America with American-made products. This is excellent stuff. Excellent, excellent stuff. I've seen it testing against others, and this is highly recommended. This product right here, this is a half a gallon. This will treat up to 300 gallons of water. 300 gallons of water. So what's nice about this is it tints the water pink. So when you want to just check quickly, you can drain a little out. If your water's pink, it's good. Now these guys recommend having a 500 parts per million of nitrate level. And I like to go a little higher, and they all tell me that more is not bad with this stuff. I try to keep it around 1,000, 1,200. So this is a must-have. You got to figure this in your price. This is about $25 plus shipping. I don't have to pay shipping. But I would say this is one of the top 3 best treatments out there. Now, my stove doesn't require a water test sample to go in for warranty, but some do. Crown Royal, for example, is one that does require a water treatment sample to be sent in every year. So, this is also from Wood Boiler Solutions. This is my test kit. All you got to do is take a little water, pour it in the beaker, and then you have a solution that you drip in there. And when the water turns purple, you know right at what you're at. It's very simple and effective, and you know right what you're at. So that's a big point. That is a must-have. Now I see a bunch of guys trying to run antifreeze, propylene glycol in their stoves. That to me is a waste of money. My stove, if the fire goes out, it will backfeed from the furnace through the heat exchanger, and it will heat the water, and it will never freeze. The amount of energy that that pump takes to run is about equivalent to a light bulb. You're talking about $10 to $15 a month. That to me is worth it. Now that stove has excellent insulation, R22. Once that water is warm, it takes almost little to zero energy to keep that water warm. So at the end of the month, I might spend $20 extra to keep that heated and from freezing, when you're going to spend $1,500 to $2,000 on antifreeze. And a lot of that antifreeze that you buy doesn't have boiler treatment in it. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't carry boiler treatment in it. And the stuff that does is ungodly expensive. So let's keep that in mind, that all these stoves need to have boiler treatment in it. And they should be tested, and some even require a sample to be sent in. So while we're standing here, here's our wood pile. That is a big key point that I want to talk about with the efficiency of these stoves. I see many guys talking about 20, 30 cords a winter. I just think that's ridiculous. If you're burning more than 10 to 12 a winter to heat your house in hot water, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. Even the most inefficient of stoves should be able to heat all winter on 10 cords. One of the big things here is moisture content, guys. Split your wood. Split your wood, let it season. Once that's split, you can test it right away after you split it, and you can check your moisture content. A lot of these stoves, mine even says it on the back panel, it needs to be less than 22% for that stove to burn efficiently. And that's what the EPA tests it at. 22% or less. Now, it has been proven time and time again that when we burn wood with high moisture content, that you're going to use 30% of the energy of each piece to dry it out before it even makes any heat. So that is a big key point. Keep that wood split and seasoned. Round wood does not season. So we had some oak sitting out in our wood yard back here. It sat for 2 years in round chunks. They were big. They were 48 inches and bigger. 2 years they sat in 24-inch pieces. You know, like this, unsplit. It was still 40% moisture inside of there. But after it was split, and the inside was allowed to see the air and sunlight and dry, it seasoned within 12 months, and we were back to 20% ready to go for the winter. That was a big one. So I want to just point out that round wood does not season. You know, your little small stuff is fine, but anything 12, 14 inches, you guys got to split it. You know, we did some tests. Even like this, sat for a year. That stuff is wet inside. That's still 40% moisture in here. So your stove is going to waste a lot of energy trying to dry that out before it can make a usable BTU. And they're talking about 30%. Can you imagine 30% of that wood pile? That's about 12 cords there. That goes back 20 feet. 3 cords of that. 3 cords of that wasted. 3 cords of that wasted just because it was too wet. So everybody, I just want to point out, try to keep up and keep your wood seasoned if you want the best efficiency out of your stove. So there's the wood pile all ready to go for the winter. Keep it covered. That's an excellent point. Keep it covered. Keep the rain off it if you can. A tarp is okay. Once, you know, leave it. I find that if you leave it uncovered during the summer is fine. Once winter hits, cover it up. Keep the rain, keep the snow off of it. You don't want to be throwing snow in there. It's another content of moisture that your stove has to get rid of before it'll make usable BTU. So this 20, 30 cords a year is a ridiculous statement, you know, and I've found many times, I've done a lot of testing over the years, split wood, 20% moisture, excellent burn results and efficiency. So we'll catch you on the other side. Another thing we want to point out here in the wood stoves is your line quality. The line quality is important. So you want to go with a high quality underground line. I see a lot of guys running these naked bare PEX lines or these very thin plastic field tile lines, and once these fail and they touch water in the ground, now you're using all that energy to heat the water in the dirt that the lines are touching. I've seen guys wasting 10s, 20s, 30s of cords of wood over the years just heating the ground for nothing. You can watch the snow melt right where the lines are buried. And my lines are buried below the frost line, and I don't know if it would matter, but I do know that my lines only lose about 1 degree from here to the house. I monitor at the stove and at the house. So behind here you'll be able to see the simple setup I have. The way the stove works, this is an aquastat, and it monitors behind here the water jacket temperature. And all this guy does is start and stop that fan. Once that fan shuts off, the stove is sealed airtight, and it will stop burning the wood, and it will save the BTUs until it's ready to heat that water again. I have this one set at 170 degrees to turn on and 180 degrees to turn off. I found that to be the most efficient. I start to go more than that, and I burn a little extra wood. There is a sweet point there. So another thing is this pump always stays on. That pump never shuts off. One of the stove manufacturers I see tell you to shut the pump off, but then you got to haul all that water hundreds of feet to your house, cold, all the way back to the stove, and it shocks the stove's water jacket when you're dumping that much cold water in it. I've heard from many manufacturers that you don't want to let the water temperature below 140 degrees in this stove. It will condense inside the firebox just like a glass of water does. And so that's a big reason why I monitor my temperature all the time. So this is an easy setup. Pump the water into the house. There's a radiator in the furnace, and when the furnace fan turns on, it blows the heat through the house, comes back to the stove, and the stove reheats it. Simple as that. It's a very simple and efficient setup. But a big key thing is good quality underground lines. Don't be buying the cheap stuff because you'll pay for it in the end. No, pay me now or pay me later, right? Pay me now or pay me later. So there's another thing that we wanted to talk about here, and that, let's see, give me a sheet. Okay. Yeah. So we want to talk about temp differential. Now, one of the things they call temp differential is the return water temp to your stove. The temp differential, we want to keep it, look at that, just shut off. So the water's now at 180 degrees. Fan shuts off, it'll snuff off the fire, and it probably won't fire up again for 2 hours. So that's another reason why I can get away with 7-8 pieces of wood all night long, keeping the house 70 degrees. It's quite an efficient setup for being an old conventional. And so anyways, water differential is basically the difference in temperature that it's returning to the stove. I've heard quite a few companies and a lot of the forums online talk about 25 degrees as your magic number. There's companies like Central Boiler that actually have valves that defer the water back to the stove if it gets to be more than that. So without shocking the water jacket, we try to keep it 25 degrees. So if the furnace is pulling heat, you may get 15 degree differential, and then say you turn your hot water on full blast, you'd probably be right at your 25. And that's about where mine is, so I try not to go more than that from one line. If you're going from another line, that's a different story. So that's a big one there. Try to keep your water differential temperature 25 degrees. That's a big one. Now, here's a point that I wanted to make about Central Boiler. I see so many guys running these stoves, and my opinion on them is my opinion, but I think that they're very inefficient, and I hate how they're designed. And I see these guys burning 20 cords of wood a year with these square boxes with a hole in the roof. They don't have an ash pan, and they don't have a fan. The forced induction is key if you want to burn your wood efficiently. You see these little flappers in the door, and it just lets in a little air, and it takes 2-3 hours for them guys to heat the whole load of wood. This took a half an hour. I went from 170 to 180. And you know, I'm not a big fan of the Central Boiler's customer service. I've heard many horror stories of these guys screwing people on the warranty, and it sucks, and I don't feel good about that. I think they should stand behind their product better. But you know, to each his own on the Central Boiler, but there's many better brands out there. Alright guys, I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons about having an outside wood boiler. And I also have an inside fireplace that I don't use often. It's more for enjoyment, but one of the big pros of having this is everything stays outside. The bugs, the dirt, the ash, the mess, everything outside. Smoke, you name it. Stays outside. And I'm a big fan of that, so is my wife. You know, having an inside fireplace, you also have the fire inside, and that is a big one for insurance in our area since so many people burn wood here. I'm getting about 20% off on my insurance having this outside away from my house, and they require 100 feet, so that was a big one. 100 feet, and my insurance has dropped 20%. So that was worth it alone right there for me. You can add that on the expense of the stove if you'd like, but you know, that's a big one. Another pro, I get to play with chainsaws. That's a big one for me. You know, at the shack, we all love our saws. So on top of that, cutting wood, I love doing it. I enjoy splitting wood. It's a big pro for me. Some don't. So that's one of the things that you might want to think about. It is a lot of work, and you're going to want to have to do it. You're going to want to enjoy it, because if it becomes a job and something you don't enjoy, you're going to get tired of it real quick trying to make up 10 cords a year. And, you know, that's one of the cons that you could put down to this stove, is it's a lot of work. For me, I enjoy it. Some hate it. Another one of the cons is you have to fill it up every single day. Every single day. So if you want to go on vacation or something, you're either one, going to have to find somebody to fill it for you, or two, you're going to have to shut it down and let your furnace heat it, which doesn't take that much energy, but it is heating another piece of equipment, and it does use a little more energy. So don't forget about that part, that the stove's always going to need attention every single day. And that's another con. When the weather's terrible, the wind is howling, the snow is blowing, you're going to have to come out here and fill it. Because usually when it starts downpouring rain, and it's 100-mile-an-hour wind, that's when you got to go fill it. Never when it's sunny and rainbows. So keep that in mind. So another set point I want to talk about here with these stoves, since this is an outside wood boiler, it is made to be outside, but I put mine inside of a building, and it seems like it is going to last a lot longer than my old one did. It doesn't have any rust on it. It's not weather checked. All the components are original on there yet. It's not getting beat up by the weather. Although they are made to be outside, having it inside, I think a building like that, I built that myself for like $1,000, garage door and all. It's worth having, and you know, it keeps the stove out of the weather. That's a big key point. So pros and cons, I'd say it's 50-50. They're expensive, they're a lot of work, but you can heat your house to any temperature you want, unlimited hot water. So that's something that you're going to want to think about before you buy one of these. Is that something that you're going to want to commit to for a lot of years to come? It's going to take you quite a few years for that to pay for itself. And again, you know, depending on how much area that you're heating, that's going to take more wood too. I see some guys here with these new gasifiers, like the Crown Pristine series, heating twice my square footage on the same amount of wood that I use, and I think that's awesome that they've come that far along. But again, they cost almost twice what this unit costs, and that's something you're going to have to think about. This 10, 12, 14 grand, an investment that you're going to want to make and stick to for the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. It's a big investment, and it's a big commitment that you guys want to definitely think about. So there it is, and we're going to show you how it works inside in a minute here. Yeah, stay tuned. Alright guys, I want to show you what it kind of looks like inside. The furnace is actually running right now. This is the plate exchanger. Actually, that's the heat exchanger, I'm sorry. The water gets pumped into there, and the fan blows it through and into the house. It's basically just like a radiator on the car. This guy is my plate exchanger for my hot water heater. I have that plumbed in first. It always feeds that first and back out. Now, I did a lot of calculations with this, and I had these lines exactly how long that I want them, so when the temperature reaches the hot water heater, it's exactly at 150 degrees. It works great. I also have a tempering valve on it, so nobody will ever get scalded, but these lines actually do dump a lot of heat into the basement when they're getting used. So one of the big things that I talked about earlier is monitoring your water temperature. So this is basically a simple barbecue thermometer. I have it on the lines of the wood stove, and it wirelessly sends the temperature up to my receiver upstairs. Now that guy will tell me, 1, if the heat's too low, 2, if the heat's too hot. It has an alarm. That alarm will go off if the temperature gets too low. I know it's time to put wood in it. I never have to go out and look, never have to wonder. That stove doesn't always smoke, so I don't know. And this one is a Wi-Fi unit. That guy right there sends it to my phone, so when I'm not home, I also know exactly what the temperature's at and what it's doing. That guy right there was about 20 bucks. That's all it took. It's a great peace of mind to have that both ways, knowing, you know, in the middle of the night, say the stove needs wood or whatever, this guy will wake me up. It beeps like an alarm clock. I know to put wood in it. And for under $100, that's a great setup. There's also other brand names like the Fireboard that costs quite a bit more, and it also works the same way. So insulated lines, big key one. All my lines are insulated all the way from the stove to here and back. Try to do as best as I can with that, and try not to lose any heat. My temperature probes go into these lines, the copper here, taped up, and it's within 1 degree of accuracy. It's pretty amazing, and I'm very happy with that setup. It was the cheapest way I could do it without going so cheap that it was junk. And you know, there's a cutoff where you can go really expensive or not. So there it is, guys. My take on the outside wood burner. I wanted to get a few key points on there where I see so many guys talking about 20 cords and they'd never do it again. It's a terrible idea and whatnot. So, you know, I never had that experience with both of my stoves, and it's just, I think it's garbage. There's no reason that anyone should be able to heat a house and a shop with 10 cords of wood. It's very doable. I know guys that do it on less. So there it is, Shack. Hope you enjoyed this video. Click the like and subscribe. We'd appreciate that. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments. Thank you.